Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Terrible Towel Tuesday. I am your host, SimFBallCritic, along with the Terrible Towel. Now, guys, this was a good one. This was a crazy week to talk about. A lot of things went on in this game. As you can see, I got my handy phone with me again. Had to take some notes throughout the game because there's a lot of stuff I wanted to hit on. Let's get right to it. Landry Jones gets the start. Landry comes out, doesn't look half bad in the first series or what have you. You know, a little shaky, but he didn't look too bad, all right? So I'm thinking, okay, maybe we could do some things. You know, he takes us down, get us a field goal or what have you. Maybe we'll be able to do some things, and, you know, we'll see what happens. So then Cleveland comes out, and they drive down, they get a field goal as well. Johnny Manziel did a pretty good job. And let me say this real quick before I forget. Manziel actually didn't do a bad job today. Well, I say today, speaking of the actual game day. But he didn't do a bad job in terms of passing and moving the ball. You know, he did lose a fumble. You know, it slipped out of his hands. Nerves, I guess you could say. But he didn't do a bad job as far as passing. He had some pretty good stats. So that's just, you know, something to keep an eye on. But then Landry Jones comes out for the second series and he gets hurt. He goes down. You know what that means. Big Ben was activated, ready to play, which means he had to come in and play, and boy, did he play well. Let's take a look at some things here. Ben comes in, and the combination between him and Antonio Brown is phenomenal. We all know that. All day, I mean, you can see very early that our receivers were getting deep. You know, Brown was getting deep. Martavis Bryant was getting deep. And I could just tell right there, so we're going to be able to pass on this secondary all day long. We came out, Ben had a phenomenal first half, slowed down a little bit in the second half. Not sure exactly what happened, but the offense was really not a problem today. Boys came to play, like I said. AB shows off again, does what he does best. And on that last touchdown, this guy does a somersault, a forward flip, and lands on his feet as he runs into the end zone. What a phenomenal athlete. I mean, I was amazed by that itself. But what I was glad to see is he made sure nobody was going to catch him on this particular run. And he ran in for the end zone. Beautiful. Martavis Bryant makes a mega catch. Fingertip catch. Beautiful. And then he fumbles the ball. And I'm not going to really hold him that accountable, man. You know, he probably didn't know the guy was behind him. He basically was trying to make a move, cut back to the inside, much like he did against the Cardinals. Just didn't realize somebody was there. Great play by that guy from Cleveland. Knocked the ball out, and he turned it over. But it was a beautiful catch. And that's the type of stuff I want to see from Martavis Bryant as he continues to become, a mega threat for the Steelers offense. But if he could start doing things like that and being, making phenomenal catches and attacking the ball and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to tell you right now, we definitely got a duo. You can almost say it now. But we definitely got a dynamic duo in those two guys in the wideout spot. Now let's take a look at some other things. The interception by Arthur Moats. I love this guy, man. I've been saying it since last year. This dude plays with a high motor, very physical. Love Arthur Moats. You know, it was great, again, showing good concentration, coming down with an interception. And once they showed the replay, the ball slipped out of Manziel's hand anyway. So either way, it was going to be a fumble recovery. But it still was great to see Arthur Moats show his concentration and get the pick there. What else? We forced 2 fumbles. That was good to see as well. And we saw Will Allen came up big on one of those plays. He gets beat inside, doesn't quit on the play, knocks the ball out, fumble. Gotta love that, man. I love Will Allen in that secondary. A lot of people said, they thought it would be Shamarko Thomas, but I really like Will Allen. I've liked him for the last couple years. It's just like the commentators say. This guy gives us a lot of stability out there in the secondary, and I love what he does for us. So I don't know, Shamarko. Maybe he's just going to be a special teamer. All right. Now, speaking of the secondary, they're still a little iffy, man. Once again, we're dealing with this once again this week. Manziel throws for almost 300 yards. Might have had 300. I know at one point he was very close to it. We give up too many yards, man. I mean, our secondary is just not a lockdown secondary. And I know part of that, if you're not getting pressure, but you can't really say that today. I keep saying today, guys, obviously, I do this video on the day of the game. But, you can't really say that in terms of that game, you know, because we got, what, 4 or 5 sacks? I think it was about 5. We got pressure. You know, when we started sitting in the house at Manziel, we made him make a couple mistakes. Definitely did. So it is what it is, man. The secondary just is what it is. I think it's just, you know, one of those secondaries that was kind of, in my opinion, makeshift in the beginning of the year, and they're kind of gradually getting better as they go along. But, you know, what week are we on? Like, well, this is, you know, week 10. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on. I mean, the midpoint is already over with. So this is what we're stuck with. But we got to find a way to improve, because, again, if we're able to get to the playoffs, those top-tier teams are going to give us fits. So we got to find a way to get it done. Too many penalties today. You know, we had way too many penalties. And that's not the Steelers team that we've seen early on. You know, penalties have been biting us lately the last few games. Cody Wallace has been getting a lot of penalties himself. You know, I count, if I'm not mistaken, that's like 4 penalties on him in the last 2 games. Got to do better than that. All right. Now, I already mentioned Martavis Bryant. I have it noted here. Martavis Bryant and Antonio Brown getting behind that Brown secondary, I mean, all day long. Those guys just couldn't stick with him. And I know, you know, Joe Hayden was out, which is a very solid corner. We all know that. But, man, it was a tough task for those guys out there. And like I said, you could see it. You could see that it was going to be something special that we'd be able to take advantage of all day. And we did. You know, Ben came in and looked phenomenal. Mike Mitchell, another interception in the end zone. How many end zone interceptions do we have this year? All right, off the head, you know, I could think of 4. It might be 5. But these guys continue. I mean, because if you just think, Mitchell had one in one of those games. I think it was a game I was at. I want to say it wasn't Cincinnati. What was the other game I went to this year? I can't even remember. The Cardinals game. I think it was the Cardinals game. And then you get Antoine Blake, right? Cockrell has had 2. And there you go. And then Mitchell again today. So, yeah, that's like 5 that I could count right there. I mean, these dudes are clutch. We have been clutch in the red zone. I'll be interested to see what the stats are in that regard as far as, you know, red zone defense. And the late pick by Ben, it happens. You know, I think, you know, if I remember correctly, he sailed the ball a little bit off the tip of, you know, Heath Miller's hand. Interception by the defense. It was a great adjustment by the defensive player. I think his name was Poyer, one who comes up with the pick. You just don't need that. You know, we don't need that. But you can't really argue with it when Ben is producing very well on the other side of the ratio as far as touchdowns and yards. You know, interception happens from time to time, but we have to definitely find a way to limit these late interceptions that help teams stay close. You know, because at that moment, you know, Cleveland gets a score, they're right back in the game. Luckily enough, again, the defense held tight further down, you know, closer to the red zone, and we're able to, you know, hold those guys to just 9 points. And, yeah, the last thing I was going to talk about, which I already did, was Antonio Brown to the house. I mean, that guy, he's just an incredible receiver. Point blank, period. It's getting to the point where I'm expecting him to do certain things, and there's no point for us to even be surprised anymore. But I was surprised by that flip. I mean, this dude, come on, you're running basically full speed, and you do a forward flip and land on your feet. That's incredible. But like I said, man, we look right now, we look like a team that can win. We're not a dominant team. We're not a sorry team. We are a team that is capable of winning. You know, with Ben in the lineup, if we could keep Ben somewhat healthy, he looked good today. Didn't show any repercussions from what I saw. I did see there was one play where he, you know, winced a little bit. He got hit and he kind of hobbled a little bit, so he may have aggravated the foot. But now we go into the bye. No better time than now to have the bye, get everybody healthy, and, you know, I think we're going to be okay. Now, one thing that we didn't do today, you know, last thing I'll say here before we wrap up, the run game was stymied. I mean, big time. Like, they just shut the run game down. So you got to give a hats off and credit to those guys. You know, Cleveland had a pretty good, you know, run defense coming in, if I'm not mistaken, and they showed up big today. D'Angelo Williams unable to get loose. You know, he was able to pick up key first downs when necessary, though, so it's good to see that. But that's the only thing, man. I mean, like I said, penalties and lack of the run game was the only negative and area of concern would be the secondary giving up too much yards. Outside of that, we played a phenomenal game. We only gave up 9 points. Like I said, hats off to Manziel. He didn't look half bad, man. He didn't look half bad today. I think this guy can play in the NFL, but I probably would like to see him away from Cleveland. I just don't think the situation there is good for him. I don't really think they believe in him. You know, obviously they like Josh McCown. So Manziel showed that he could play some ball. Let that boy go somewhere else and let him have a career. You know, don't hold him back like that. But outside of that, that's all I got, guys. Bye week. You know, I may or may not do a video next week. If there's something to talk about, I will do a mini video. If not, you know, I'll be on my bye as well. So, all right, guys. As like I said before, it's Sunday. So let's go ahead and watch some Sunday Night Football. Let's take a look at these Hawks, see how they look against Arizona. And let's see, man. 6-4, we're sitting in a good spot. Right now, we just have to continue to win. And the last thing I will say is, like I said, man, I think 10-6 gets us to the playoffs. I could potentially see 2 losses that we could, you know, surrender and still make it. You know, could possibly be Seattle. That's a tough game going out there. And, you know, Denver might give us a tough game, even though, as I know right now, the Chiefs blew them out pretty much today. So we'll see. But all right, guys, that's all I got for you. I thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And like always, I'm going to tell you, it won't hurt you to hit that like button. Okay, guys, until next time, Steeler Nation, let me know what you think.
Once again, guys, thanks for coming by. And if you want to interact with me live, head on over to Sim Standard Radio every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, along with Smitty and Azure Effect. The call-in number for the show is down in the description. Now, of course, for more content, go ahead and click the link above. And before you go, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. All right, guys. Until next time, lights out.